Hello and welcome to SFI Not So Live. And for the first time ever, you should be able to see us as well as hear us. So welcome to a brand new season and a brand new format of the podcast. But some things never change. I'm joined by two of our regular stalwarts. So let's just introduce those guys first. Tony.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Hall, Head of Business Development here at Saffron. So my role, really, the best way to describe it is helping brokers and their clients to build houses for somebody else to live in, or build their own house, or buy a new house, or remortgage to get a better deal on where they currently are.
And just bringing up really quickly some new customers too, development.
Yes, absolutely.
There you go. We'll talk about it a bit later. And Phil. Phil, welcome.
Thanks, Jay. I'm Phil Lawford, the National Account Manager at Saffron for Intermediaries. And my role is to relationship manage our key intermediary trading partners.
There's going to be a little bit of a theme to this podcast. So I think our guest really does fit that brief. So Rachel, welcome. A little introduction for the audience, if you can, please.
Definitely. Rachel Geddes. I run and own Mortgage Advice Bureau City of London. My job is working and growing my team and also working with clients wherever their mortgage and financial needs are, helping them get to their goals.
Couldn't be a better guest for us. Welcome, Rachel. So much the same as ever, we go through stories that are affecting you as brokers and the audiences. But for a change, you can actually see us, which is a nice thing for. I'm not sure that's good for everyone, but we'll see how we get on with this month. So without further ado, let's move on and just talk very quickly about what we're going to talk about and the market we're going to talk about. And we do talk about it a fair bit, guys. I think that's fair to say. And that's buy-to-let. I know it's for Saffron, Tony, that's a big focus area.
Absolutely.
And it's something we've sort of discussed and pushed. And I think, Rachel, this podcast, we're going to kind of maybe knock some of the media on the head a little bit here and say there's some scaremongering going on here and there's some stories that perhaps aren't accurate to what the market's doing.
100%. There's so much positivity out there. We just need to start talking about that.
And that's what we're here for. So we're going to start talking about it. So let's go to our first story. And this actually, I started with a positive because I thought this was really, really nice. And this is Kate Davies from IMLA, who was fighting the corner, as you say, and saying, look, let me read the headline to you. It says, buy-to-let, resilient sector deserving of support. And I think it's fair to say, Tony, you provided the sector with a fair bit of support over the years and still are. Why does the sector need support, and is it as bad as people are making out? What's the market look like from Saffron's perspective?
Well, from our perspective, from us, it's a strong market. We for us, particularly expat at the moment, that seems to be where we support a lot. But through our limited company and straightforward buy-to-let, we're strong. So look, it's relative, isn't it? The whole market has had a dip because of economic circumstances, but the whole market is now seeing a resurgence with particularly purchase activity going up, and I think buy-to-let has certainly seen that as well. We're big supporters of it. Why it needs a break? Because it's been subject to a number of tax challenges over recent years and everything else, which has created unnecessary concern for a number of cohorts in the market, particularly the single property landlord, where it's become harder to remain in that market. So yeah, I think it needs a bit of a break, which is what Kate's basically saying. It's had the tax and everything else and stamp duty reform and things that could be done to help this sector are very much needed, because it is a vital part of our housing strategy as a country. 20% of all housing is private rented sector. So therefore, let's help these people continue to do that.
So Phil, I know this is an area you're particularly fond of in that respect, and you say this often, that without the private rental market, we wouldn't have a rental market because they don't build enough social housing. There's not enough housing out there. So, these stories and these doom and gloom, and we will talk a little bit about some of the stories that are in the mainstream media, but this doom and gloom, and actually we need that market. And you've been a big, on the last podcast, you were quite vocal in your support of private landlords.
Yeah. Look, whatever your view is on private landlords, they are a really important component of our housing ecosystem. They're filling in that gap. There's this supply and demand issue, and that's not going away. And it has the private landlord sector has filled that gap for many years. If we didn't have that, we'd be in an even bigger mess than we are. So, I think we just need to be even-handed and perhaps be fairer with them. So it's really easy to bash landlords and see them as the baddies taking up the housing stock. But the issue is the housing stock. There's not enough housing stock. That's the problem.
Yeah, they can't take what isn't there, but there isn't anything there if there's nothing else left,
needs
is there?
fixing. So they're picking up the slack. And, I think the other point is there's been a lot of doom and gloom in the financial press, particularly over the last sort of 6 months. But there's a lot of positivity out there. So, it's never good it's not a good story, is it, good news doesn't make the headlines, but the reality is there are more landlords looking to increase their housing stock than there are landlords exiting the market. So let's focus on that. The housing stock. What if we have a change of government this year? Nothing is going to be fixed quickly. It's long term, so we need to support the private landlord and talk the market up. Really, not talk ourselves in.
And it's hard. You just said it's really hard to not fall into the trap of hearing these bad landlords, and you do see a lot more stories about bad landlords than you will good ones. And there's such a small minority, but there is a lot of slapping the landlords. A lot of people that would assume, and I suppose, as you were saying, the politics of it.
Yeah.
There hasn't really been that much support from the government for landlords, and the economic market we're in now, or the situation we're in now, isn't very comfortable for them, is it? I mean, the rates are high. Yeah, everything about being a landlord is difficult.
Yeah.
But they're willing to stay, and I think we need to support that, no?
Absolutely. And one of the first things we can do is not talk it down. So let's be positive about the sector, because there's a lot of good things happening. I think it's fair to say the market for the private landlord is changing. It's not, you might not be getting the high monthly rental yields, but as previously, but it's still a really good return for your capital on the medium to long term as well. Yes. So let's not lose that focus as well.
Mm-hmm. So, Rachel, you talk a lot in this space. I'm going to pass over to you for a minute, just to have a little chat about, you spoke very highly about landlords and about buy-to-let as a whole, and you speak very openly about it. What's your opinion now? Where are you seeing the dip as a being on the other side of the fence and not being from a lender? Are you seeing a dip? Is there a reason for that? Are people talking about why they're wanting to come out of the market? Are they coming out of the market, or are these stories just a little bit inaccurate?
I would say it's really inaccurate. So when we're speaking to our landlords, actually they are wanting to get more properties. We're speaking to more first-time landlords. Probably 2023, the market across all areas got hit. There's no change in that challenge. So buy-to-let obviously was as well. But coming back from that, landlords want to keep on investing. It's just been a neglected part of the market. They have been hit with tax, regulation, regimes, going green, all these things, and U-turns on them. It's just non-stop hit. And all you ever see in the media is profiteering landlords, rent going up. Well, actually, these people are running a business. So they need to break even or make a little bit of money. So therefore, the tenant's rent is going up. And we've seen that change dramatically over the last several years. Where actually, if we don't take a step back and look at the full market, we rely on landlords because there's tenants. People want to live out of their parents' home. So there's always going to be a need and demand for tenant. So on average, there's about 20 to 25 tenants per property at the moment, which is that demand. We need to change that. Yeah. There's a massive stock issue. However, if we don't look at that, we aren't considering our next lot of first-time buyers and first-time investors, because their rent is going up and up and up. So therefore, their ability to buy is being delayed further. Therefore, the whole market does come to a bit of a stopping point. You haven't got first-time buyers, you haven't got home movers. So as much as people want to say the buy-to-let mongrels, as it's been called, and all this negativity about it, actually, no, they are crucial to the whole ecosystem of the buying market. We need them so much. And they have just been knocked non-stop from different things. And now it's time to actually look and say to the landlords, what are you seeing? So when we speak to our landlords, they are all wanting to continue to invest. They are all looking to buy on average 1 to 3 more properties going forward. That's not changing because they see the demand for it. New investors want to get on the ladder. It's just where do they go? Trying to get that education out to a landlord, whether it's portfolio, new starter, it's so difficult. And the media just runs off the negativity. And that's when he's changed.
And I think you just said something really important, though, something we talk about quite a lot in the podcast, and that is bringing people together. That's like the community of it. So, it's important that we bring this sector together, especially, and saying to them, look, you're an experienced landlord. We've got young landlords who want to be landlords, as you were saying. Surely the education needs to come from them. They've been through the worst of it, some of these. And is it not time that we start pulling together a bit more?
If we could do that, it would be amazing. Absolutely amazing, because actually they want to learn from that. But it's also the duty of us as brokers, business owners, lenders, to actually offer that education to landlords. So if you're looking at investing in properties, where do you go? Well, first off, you go to Google. Don't do it. Yeah. It's terrifying. Seek advice. But actually, people don't know where to start because it has become so complex and specialist over the years. Actually, is it that much more complex than it was 10 years ago? Certain things have changed, but actually the formula of it hasn't really changed. It's maybe become a bit more tighter on stress testing, rates and things like that. But actually, the formation of becoming a landlord hasn't changed. You might do a limited company name versus personal name. You just need to speak to somebody for advice. And that's what we need to get accessible, is getting that advice.
Tony, what have you been doing as a lender to offer advice? I know you've got a strong team now. We talk often about how you've grown your team, but that education to brokers is as important as the brokers is to consumers. So have you done anything? Is there anything you're planning to do? Have you seen good examples of what people have done to give these wannabe and existing landlords who want to grow their portfolios like the education they need to move forward?
I think that's a really good question, and I probably think, being very candid, we've probably not done enough. We need to do more. There's other areas of the market that we are really supporting with guides and help and things, but actually that's a good reflection for us to move forward. Actually, how do we help and support? I think the key thing for me, and Rachel's just said it, is about getting advice. Okay, so, and that's the power of mortgage brokers, mortgage advisors. Go and get professional advice on the best thing to do. Now, they won't be able to necessarily advise you on the tax situation, but they can recommend and put you forward to seeing a tax specialist that can help you understand how's the best way to formulate this to support what you need. So, but we will take that away and think about how can we support this sector from an education perspective. What can we produce, or who can we work with? Obviously, you've got the trade associations for the landlords that we can look to think about how do lenders work with them. So it's a really good question.
And it's you've got to look at it from I hate this phrase, but like focus groups where you have new upcoming landlords, somebody who's got maybe one property, wants to invest and wants to grow a portfolio. Having somebody chair a panel, have a chat, have an open debate. You can do it online. You don't have to get in a group and be in a room. We've got enough digital sources now to get people together. But I just feel like what about brokers? Where do they go? So if you're a new broker and you've not really worked in this space, where do they go to get their education?
Honestly, there's nowhere for them. So it comes with experience. And that's the problem. That's something that I am really spearheading. How do we change that? Because at the moment as a broker, you get your CMF exams, you go through your internal training, and then you get registered with the lenders, you can go. So actually, how do we change that? How do we bring it back? How do we make sure that clients can have really productive professional conversations with brokers, whether that's brokers that are more experienced working with newer brokers or less experienced brokers? Also asking brokers, what do they know? And give them a safe space to ask questions. There is this whole stigma of if you have to ask a question and ask for help, are you actually knowing your job? Where that's how I learn. I asked everybody for help. Teach me, I'm a sponge. Yeah. And actually having those peer-to-peer groups is really, really important to share knowledge. There's no point me having all this knowledge and not sharing it with anybody. I share it with my team. I expect my team to share it with their clients and also to share it with other brokers too. That's what this is about. And it's, you say about working as a community, the industry has to collaborate a lot better.
Yeah, and actually we have the forum because we've got the Working in Mortgages, initiative, which is cross lender and brokers. So I think that's a challenge to raise to that community? How can we support this better? What can we do? You know, IMLA last year ran a conference for new starters to the industry, just to get people understanding. Perhaps there's one around,
I think,
landlords and stuff. So I will certainly be raising that.
We almost
within
need
that.
like a buy-to-let academy, don't we? Really,
Yeah.
where that could be a virtual academy, cross network, cross industry, both for, you know, lenders, underwriting, development managers, and crossing over to the advice side as well. So it's all about sharing the best practices and those wins, and like you said, it's all about that experience and imparting experience.
There's so many
down.
events, isn't it? You see
Yeah.
lots of lenders going to events meeting brokers, but actually, you know, it's extending that beyond just,
Yeah.
oh, let's meet, let's talk about our proposition, to let's educate you.
Because what worries me is there are some brokers I've seen where new brokers or going through the training are given buy-to-lets to do because they were perhaps unregulated. That's a bad practice. You know, buy-to-let is more specialist, so there should be almost a benchmark for that, because of, you know, seeing a specialist buy-to-let broker who knows what they're doing, with the right contacts for, you know, tax advice, legal advice. You know, the good brokers have that. Then, you know, that will produce good outcomes for clients, really, and I think that's what we need, isn't it?
It's been quite controversial in the industry, 'cause I've pushed out for this, whether we let new brokers go straight into just doing buy-to-let as well. In my business, I don't allow that. So we train all of our brokers, but through different segments, because there's so much to learn in this industry. You can't do that on day one. So we do it in baby steps, in bite-sized chunks, so they fully understand each area of the market. But they have the resource that if they do come across a buy-to-let application that they aren't yet qualified, in my eyes, to do, they've got a team around them that can do it. And it's having that, if you can't do it, you have somebody that can pass it out to. We have to have specialist license for second charges, commercials, bridging, all this. Buy-to-let on its own is a specialist. But nothing needs to change. And the same with, you get registered with your company or with your network, club, whoever you're working with, to join lenders. And with the buy-to-let, you can register with every buy-to-let lender and start selling buy-to-let mortgages. No one knows that broker's experience, their knowledge. And it's so crucial that when you are doing buy-to-lets, whether it's the first one or the 50th one, that they're set up correctly. And you need to do it from day one. You can't learn on the job for doing that. You've got to rely on your people around you and have that. Every company should have it, that they have a specialist in each sector that their team can learn from.
That's a really good concept. And it must be difficult for your guys, Tony, as well, with brokers who are limited in knowledge, because I suppose your team are then educating them, which is what we're talking about, really, isn't it? It's educating them and giving the advice they need to go back to their customer. Is that a challenge for your team? Is that something you see regularly, that brokers are, as Rachel was saying, they're sort of new, fresh, and actually a little bit stuck?
Yeah, look, it's like any industry. You've got the competent and you've got the incompetent, and this industry is no different, if I'm honest, right? And our job is to support both sides of the coin of that equation, and we do a lot of that because it never surprises me how ill-equipped some advisors are for basics, and we're teaching them absolute basics, and that's not having a pop. That's reality, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah.
But that's the job of a good BDM, is to help them, educate them as to what the market can do. I mean, we get so often the broker ringing us saying, "I've got this scenario. What would you do?" And we'll help them, but it's kind of like that's your job. You know, but we help them. We help them understand a set of accounts. We help them understand a bank statement, what good bank statement looks like. So there's an awful lot of that education. I don't think we probably go into the tax side of it, because that's dangerous.
Yeah.
But in terms of the best way we can help is how to put the case forward in its best light. Or as Phil always says, how do you get your applicant match fit? I love that phrase. How do you get the match fit ready for that application? Yeah. So that the underwriter goes, this is easy, I can do this all day, tick.
There's got to be some advice as well. So let's jump from the inexperienced to the experienced. And how does a consumer find an experienced buy-to-let broker? Because we talk about this a lot, don't we? That brokers' websites aren't necessarily the best. They don't necessarily promote themselves the best. And when you've got, Rachel, you said it's a specialist market. You need to have specialists everywhere that people see, don't you? And you need, a consumer needs to know that you are the person to go to for buy-to-let, especially with all the different variations, so expat or limited company. What are brokers doing wrong and what can they do better?
I think brokers, we've become really good at technology regarding how we can key cases, make that streamlined. From a marketing point of view, we're brokers, we're mortgages. We do not understand any of that concept. So I'm fortunate being part of a network, they do all that for me. So they can publicise, they can work alongside me. But most brokers don't have that support of a big network behind them that's doing that. So you don't actually know where to start. Where do you put yourself out there? How do you actually get to the landlords? Because the same thing is most businesses won't just deal with just buy-to-let or just new build or just self-build. They will go across. So how do you put yourself into those catchments? And you've got to then look at your consumer. Where are they looking? Where's the consumer going first to get advice? And you've got to put yourself there. But that's forever changing as well because our demographic of a landlord is changing. We've got your first-time landlords coming through. Probably age range is late 30s to early 40s at the moment now.
What's their go-to channel?
It's going to be TikToks, your social medias, and Googles. And then you've also got your more probably experienced portfolio landlord with more than 4 or 5 properties, which is mid to late 50s. Where are they going for that advice? Who are they speaking to? So as brokers, we need to understand where are our consumers going first, and therefore we can put ourselves in front of them so they can actually see that. And actually working with lenders, and this is where it's been quite controversial, where I have pushed back on some lenders and said, actually, can we make it that if you've got new brokers registering that they haven't been given that experience, that training yet, they get directed to where they can get the training, but until that point, they aren't actually activating selling. Because anyone can put on their website, they deal with buy-to-let. You can do that as a mortgage broker straight away, and you can put the word, I specialise in buy-to-let. Yeah. Actually, how does that client, that consumer know that's what you do?
Absolutely. I would, one of the things that, and I'm working with, I mentor some brokers actually from the Working in Mortgages initiative, and I've been talking to one of them around how do they promote what they do, and said you really need to get into, you know, the rating systems like Trustpilot, all right, because that is the start point for an awful lot of people's journeys. Even if it's not looking at Trustpilot directly, it's Googling, and Trustpilot in its very nature will pick that up, because that starts to demonstrate whether you're the specialist or not. You know, your web, as you said, your websites are poor in most places. They don't easily articulate how to help somebody. We've done this from the research that we've done on other sectors of the market. So I always say get yourself on Trustpilot and get your clients who recognise what you do shouting about you, because that will help. And you know, it's like, this will be one of my rants. I always talk about this, that, you know, in terms of when you buy something from Amazon or you book a holiday, do you go on the strength of what it says about the product or the location or the star rating someone gives it? Absolutely. So all of us make a decision based on somebody else's view. You haven't got any idea what their moral compass is. You've got no idea what their standards are, but you'll discount something because someone goes, oh, don't like that. I don't like red, you know, to coin a favourite phrase. And that's what you need to do to get where you need to get to. So I always recommend that's what brokers do as an absolute must.
Yeah. From a consumer point of view, I think probably if I was a prospective buy-to-let landlord, I would talk to other landlords, experienced landlords, and ask them, what broker do they use? Yes. Are they good? Are they happy? You know, I think the personal recommendations, you can't go wrong then, you know, because then you'll also get, well, I use this person and they weren't good.
Word of mouth has been the biggest marketing tool for forever.
Absolutely.
Forever.
So
we'll continue.
And actually, I think recently, do you not think there's a reluctance, though, for people to say, oh, you've done a grand job, or to give you a review? Yeah. I think that's slipped back a bit. And I really liked that kind of focus on get people to talk about how good you are. And we need to stop being so, almost British, I suppose, and going, oh, I don't know if I want to ask them for a review. Do it.
Yeah.
Because actually it does you a world of good.
And ask for referrals and ask for recommendations.
Yeah.
It's going old school selling, but that's how we all started off.
And where's the place we can do that without, we can do all of that obviously on the referral sites, but we can also do that on LinkedIn. And I think the mistake that we have is we talk at the audience on LinkedIn without getting someone to join us on our posts and saying, let's have a conversation about what you did for us, and sharing. We say it all the time, but case studies are brilliant because you got somebody who said, oh, you really helped me with this. And it doesn't take long for somebody to get a client and go, I read somewhere that somebody handled a case just like this. I'm going to ask them for some advice. It's silly little things, isn't it? But silly little things that work.
You talk about experienced brokers. Actually, we don't like putting ourselves outside our comfort zone. Put us with the client, put us one-on-one, we're fine. Put us on that platform, even do something like this, it's outside our comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Actually, can we support each other to be vocal? If we're experienced in that sector, let's talk about it. Let's share our experience on these platforms.
It doesn't have to be that competition, does it? It doesn't have to be that we'll actually speak to each other, support each other.
There's enough business always to go around, whether it's via brokers, via lenders. There's enough. Let's stop competing.
Absolutely. The market is, it's 300 billion. We say that as though that's a lot.
That's a lot
of
money.
Of mortgages. That's a lot of money, So there's enough to go round. I'm a real advocate of sharing. I have no issue sharing anything we do with lenders or whatever, because there's enough to go around. We can all learn. Don't give away anything sensitive that you shouldn't, but it doesn't matter. We're all here to help and support each other.
Yeah, our BDMs, our BDMs regularly, and this is what I'm really proud of, is I hear them regularly talking to brokers saying, look, this isn't one that we can help with, but have you tried this lender? And that's obviously basic relationship building, but that's how we need to be. The industry needs to be more collaborative because of that's how we can
And it's a difficult time. We've just come out. I know we're in 2024 and we still talk about the pandemic, but I'm trying to get across. What I want to get across here was the fact that we all started working from home. A lot of brokers are self-employed. They might not necessarily have those peers and mentors you were talking about accessible on the doorstep as we were before. The water cooler chats have disappeared a little bit, and I need a little bit of support. I know Margaret over there has been in this game for 25 years. I'm going to go talk to her. We've lost a bit of that, and I think there's also, having visited offices, everyone's gone back. There still isn't quite that banter. There's still a lot of sitting at desks and cracking on and not so much chat. So I think we need to look at bringing that back, going pre-2020 and saying, what are we still missing? What have we still not put back into the workplace that will give us the knowledge, understanding and the expertise development?
Going back to probably pre even the pandemic and so on. So we went remote 2018. So my team asked to do that. I was reluctant because I was old school. We've all got to be in the office together. And it worked. It worked amazingly. The problem for us in the pandemic was we'd never done video calls. This is a whole new thing that we're having to experience. We've been used to working from home and different locations, but now we're locked at home with our families and having to do video calls with dogs and children running around the background. However, we used to always have mentors. As Tony was just saying, in the industry, this has become a big thing, but actually in every business, we should have mentors. Yes. And that's the bit that's really changed, because people that haven't maybe worked remotely and are now coming back to the office, they've got used to now just being on their own.
Yes.
The mortgage industry world as a broker has always been a very lonely job, because prior to maybe having telephone centres and so on, you all worked to have estate agencies or banks. There was one of you in each branch or each office. Yeah. So you're always very much isolated, but you would always be partnered with somebody. So it is really important to have that buddy system still and actually change it around in the business. Don't keep the two buddies together or the two mentors together, because actually you learn from different people. But that's where businesses have kind of become maybe too focused on the results versus the teams. Yes. And it's going back to actually, what does the team need? What do the brokers need? Mm-hmm. Therefore, what do the consumers need? And working that better, because you can have a team of 10, 50 people, but if they never speak to each other, they're never going to learn from each other. If they're all sat with headsets on, they could all be sat at home. Yep. Actually, but it's also taking them away from that frontline sales as well. Actually, how often do businesses do in-house training? How often do they actually say to their team, Don't just listen to us. Go and listen to the webinars, the podcasts. Go and speak to other people in the industry. What are they doing? Learn from each other, because that's how you get to be the better broker. And therefore, if you've got the better broker, the client's outcome is going to be better too.
And we saw that in 2020, didn't we, Tony, when we launched SFI Live, which obviously was the parent to this spin-off, which is now this has become the parent. But, you know, we saw that, and the engagement we had in 2020, because everyone was at home, as you say. But the engagement was unbelievable. And the chat room never stopped.
Yeah.
People were asking so many questions.
Yeah.
And we're missing that now.
Yeah.
Because people have got fatigue. But then, I mean, Tony, Phil, you've both been at loads of events. They are kicking off now. I've seen a lot more events across the country. There is a lot more collaboration going on now, surely.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, that's the other big tip for brokers wanting to learn more is go to events, because of most of them are free as well. So, you know, there's the structured learning that, you know, from the agendas, but there's also the, I suppose, more passive learning that just through talking and socializing, where you pick up stuff. I mean, I've been in this industry 35 years, you know, and I still learn something most weeks, you Absolutely. Know. I mean, Rach were talking earlier, and I learned stuff there from our conversation. So you never stop learning. It's just all about keeping these conversations going.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking about our team, the collaboration side, as Phil just said, I'm delighted that all of my BDMs now have got collaboration with other lenders and other providers in the mortgage chain, and we're running regional events, because a lot of these events are centred in London or Birmingham or Manchester, and if you're outside of those main conurbations, it can be a challenge to get that education without taking a whole day out your diary to do it. So Lee's running one down in Exeter, which has got 5 or 6 lenders, and it's got a conveyancing firm. So it's not just understanding mortgages, it's also understanding the whole house buying process and how to remove some of that sludge. And I know Jackie's got one in the north, which has got a variety of different providers within the mortgage arena. So we're doing a lot of collaboration with other lenders.
We do hear this, don't we? We've had solicitors, we've had conveyancers, and everybody on this podcast, and everybody says the same thing. It's just taking that person to step out.
It absolutely. And the team are starting to run more of their own little webinars local as well. And I'm really pleased with the take up. You know, brokers are really keen to hear on a localized basis from their BDM how we can help them.
Do you think the brand level stuff is maybe a switch off? It's a bit too corporate for them. Maybe they feel. I mean, obviously it's useful, but do you think that local feel gives it that edge?
Absolutely. Look, if we send an email, right, we actually get a reasonably good open rate. But if an individual BDM sends an email, it gets an amazing open rate. If an individual BDM sends a LinkedIn post, it gets an even better reaction. You know, we've proven that one of our BDMs emailing a set of brokers with a topic, got very little response. He then put exactly the same topic on LinkedIn. Within 5 minutes, he had an engagement with someone going, "Oh, you can help me."
Yeah.
That's the difference. Look, it's life, and I always get this phrase wrong, but people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. Yeah. All right, and that's the key. If you put in the effort, people then buy from you. The brand's irrelevant because they trust you. And that's the key in our market. It's all about trust from a broker to a lender and a consumer to a broker.
Well, the conversation trailed off. We haven't really followed a normal format and talked about the stories. We've just had a conversation, which is great. So obviously the new format's working for us. I hope it is for you guys too. So just to go back to one of the topics, because Rachel, you mentioned something earlier, and that was portfolio landlords over 55 or 55 and over. The Daily Mirror said, you've seen the article, that those applicants or those later life buy-to-let lenders, borrowers, are falling off a cliff. And that's a quote, True or not true?
I won't say it's true. I would say what you've had is a lot of those portfolios are probably our biggest portfolio landlords. So they've maybe had to readjust because of the changes. It's only the last 2 years we've really seen those impact from the tax changes. Mm-hmm. So they had to sit back and go, how's this going to actually impact us? At the same time, we had certain things happen in the market that meant rates increased quite dramatically. Yeah. So they've had their biggest tax hits, as well as a lot of them are coming out on what's been the lowest rates we've seen for years, and they're now coming out onto what we call more standard rates. So it has been a double hit for them. So they have maybe sat back a little bit and reevaluated, but coming off the cliff, absolutely not. What we are seeing, though, is they're now evaluating what they're going to do next with their portfolios.
Yes.
Because depending why they first bought these, was it for a returning income in their retirement, or was it for them to actually have capital in their retirement? And that's what they're looking to do. So also, because there's been so much doom and gloom in the media regarding having portfolios, a lot of these people put their portfolios together to leave to their children and grandchildren. And these children and grandchildren are going, we don't want anything to do with this. Why would we want to be
Because
part of
they've
it?
been fear-mongered into believing it's a horrible market.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. So actually, if you speak to majority of our private rental sector landlords, they want to carry on going. They want to carry on growing their portfolios. They're just looking at what do they do, what's their end game. And each landlord's end game is going to be different. So it's understanding that from the day one and evolving with it and evolving with the market. But we still have that age group wanting to buy. Again, though, the media has gone down this route.
Yeah.
They've gone off the minority that have maybe sold off because they've needed to. Circumstances have changed. What people don't ever see, though, is when a landlord might sell off their portfolio, for a manner of reasons, huge amount of that is bought back by other landlords that have got portfolios in the exact same age arena as them now or different arenas.
Yeah.
So just because a landlord sells off their portfolio doesn't mean they've been lost in the buy-to-let market. They've actually, a lot of occasion, a large portion have gone back into the buy-to-let market. That's just not captured anywhere.
Interesting point. Okay.
My biggest issue, just
Go on.
another
Here
Tony
we go,
rant,
Tony rant.
Tony Rants.
is the categorisation of over 55s as the start of later life. Now, I'm closer to 55 than not.
I must admit, so you tell
We
yourself
didn't
a bit,
say
I
later
don't
life.
like it.
No, but that's what the article states.
It
and
does say
and-
later
and-
life in the mirror. I thought that's a bit rough.
It very much rankles me now, going, hang on a minute.
That's 'cause
They
you
need
creep-
to-
that's 'cause you-
Because I am in that
yeah, you're in
category
that
very
category
shortly.
now.
I could buy an assisted home soon, for Christ's sake, which is worrying, isn't it?
We're living later now, so you say we need to do
Well,
these
I'm just saying
categories
we
a little
need
bit
to
later. So maybe
recalibrate this to
65
go,
onwards.
actually, let's really understand what later life is, because it certainly isn't 55.
It's a really good point, though, because actually when you take the first-time buyer and the first-time landlord age, where that's gone up to now, actually, if you were to take that, the home buyer market then for your later life would be less than 15, 20 years.
it's a really
That's
short
crazy.
gap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
most first-time buyers are lending into retirement.
Yes.
Yeah. Average age 34, 35. Terms going to 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
that's the thing. It used to be 60, 65.
Exactly.
Then it became 70, but also retirement age. And they're
Yeah.
looking at changing it again at the
Yeah.
moment. Actually, these things do have to be moved forward because we're still working on the first-time buyer age group as early, mid-20s. That's not
just
been the
not-
case
And
for
we're
over a
also
decade.
looking at the death rates and death ages of a previous generation. We're living a lot longer, and we're likely to live a lot longer over the coming years. You're going to see that age grow and grow and grow.
Absolutely.
While we're talking about age,
Don't look at me.
sorry, that did have a first-time landlords, because actually there's a part of the first-time landlord mortgage market that appeals to me, or I respect, and that was when I came out of university and I went off to work in London. I didn't, but a lot of my friends bought a home back home and rented it, because there was no way they were going to afford a property in London. They want to be on the property ladder. And as you were saying, it was their future. They were investing for their future. And they thought, well, actually, the market's quite good at the moment. I'm going to get myself a 3-bedroom detached or semi-detached house at a decent price, and then and rent it out when I'm ready. I can move into it and start a family, whatever. Now, I want to bring this up with you, Tony, first, because Saffron offer first-time buyer, first-time landlord.
Across the whole range. Yeah.
And I think
Portfolio,
that is,
standard or expat.
I think that's really important to note, because actually, as you were saying, you want to build that nest egg, but there's a lot of professionals out there that can't necessarily afford a home where they work, might not be able to afford to commute and buy,
or don't want to yet.
Or don't want to yet.
They're having their best life in London, but they want to start their portfolio.
I mean, some might be having their best life with mum and dad,
Well,
and
look,
then
don't
buying
get
a
me
house to
wrong,
rent
look,
out. I mean, you don't know.
The
do
one
you?
area of the market that we've identified that we're sadly not in yet is the first-time buyer, first-time landlord, but HMO or
interesting.
multi-unit block, because the rental yields in a single AST are a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you buy an HMO, you've got 5 or 6 beds creating the right yield for you. However, there's not many lenders that will lend to a first-time landlord, first-time buyer.
I wouldn't have even
HMO.
considered that an option.
So it's an area that we've identified. We're not in it yet. There are a few lenders in it, but it is a gap in the market that hopefully at some point we can help solve. But that's how it's changing, because that's where you're going to get your yield from.
And that's how we make new landlords. So you guys are offering that opportunity, as you say, as we go on. We could actually end up with younger landlords as opposed to just older ones. But it's again, where do they get their advice? And I think if you listen back to this, Rachel, I'm sure we've given them enough information to say at least go and find somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Go and speak to a professional every single time.
Exactly. I think, as you said, Rachel, everyone was a first-time landlord once.
Yeah, 100%.
Even
That's how they start.
Even these guys with 300-400 properties, they had one. So we need a bit of a dragon's den for landlords, don't we?
Well, people
Wouldn't
forget.
that be a great idea?
Maybe we can, as a spin-off of this podcast, maybe we could start doing some live focus group stuff for landlords.
Could do.
That'd be amazing.
Maybe, as I said, we can get a lender, we've got a broker and lender in the room. We've got a completely independent doctor, what you're talking about sitting here as well. But, there are plenty of people out there.
We've got the solicitor angle covered as well.
We've got a perfect point. We've got them all.
There you go.
We've got them all.
Could be
Okay,
done.
watch this space, guys.
Fantastic.
We've only got a few minutes left. So I just want to touch on the very last story that I shared with you guys, because we haven't followed the normal format, but I think this has been much more informative, a lot more fun doing it this way. So I'm really pleased we chose to do this. But our final story was a load of various different people talking about 2024 and how it's going to be the year for the broker, it's going to be a year for the market. After what the kicking we took a little bit last year. Let's have a look at this. Let's do it again. I know we do it often, but let's talk about it from a broker perspective. What is 2024 looking like at the moment, Tone, and what do you predict it's going to be for this year?
Look, it's been a great boost. That this market is a confidence market. Yeah, if confidence is up, the market's good, and its start of the year has been amazing. 27 Tech, one of the sourcing providers, has quoted the best ever January. To over 2 million searches, and the big plus for me in that is purchase searches were up 120% on December.
Okay, that's interesting.
And up on the same period in 2023. So there's a lot of buoyancy. Rates have been dropping. Obviously, there's been a slight plateau now, which is now seeing the other way because of the technical recession, which has spooked the market. As I said, the market needs certainty. Yeah. So there is
But the Bank of England have saying they're not going to increase it.
Exactly.
Aren't they?
Exactly. But swap rates, which is what most lenders price their profitability on, are going up because of that statement and the begrudgingly stubborn 4% inflation. So it's not going up, but it's not coming down. So there is a bit of a readjustment with particularly the high street lenders, because they're the volume players, pushing the rates back up. I think we saw the last of the 4% deals go yesterday with HSBC's up price. So there isn't any sub 4% deals in the market. However, look, I think there's a huge opportunity this year. This is the year, in my view, for diversification for brokers and advisors. We've got more people looking at different ways of income. We've got more people considering how they live and work. So there's more opportunity for people. So if you're a broker that doesn't diversify from what you've already always done, you probably might find it a bit more of a struggle than those who are reflecting and open to looking at other opportunities in the market. So for me, it's embraced that. And we're seeing that because most of the trade events and most of the networks that we work with in the clubs, the focus is about diversification. How can you grow your business? So I think the opportunity is there if you choose to take it.
Phil, do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, 100%. The positives are January was much, much better than 2023. I think everybody I've spoken to had a better January this year than last year. Swap rates have increased slightly, but I think we're adjusting now to a slightly higher rate environment. So that's good. So we've got used to rates being a bit higher, both lenders and brokers. As Tony mentioned, complex. The market has become more complex, so lenders had to adapt to that, and brokers are starting to adapt because of life is now more complicated than it was. But that brings opportunity, whether we're seeing more working patterns change, so we're seeing more contract workers, more self-employed applicants. So there's more adaptive solutions coming out there in the market, and that's the other good thing is lenders aren't just pressing that rate button and seeing if they can win business by the lowest rate. They're actually adapting criteria now. We're seeing that come through, which is fantastic news for consumers, because of ultimately you can have the best, if you have the best rates in the world, if you don't fit that lender's criteria, it's not worth a thing. So that's really positive. And then we're finally seeing some movement on in planning as well. So there's been some positive news about the planning process. So that should create hopefully some opportunity for house building as well. So let's see how it plays out. But I think there's a lot for us to be optimistic about this year.
Rachel, there's a lot in them too, but yours from a broker perspective. So what's your view for your business in 2024 and what it's going to be like?
It's a positive outlook, that's for certain. We talk about 2023, but we've also touched on 2020 and what happened then as well. So we've had a good 3 years of big highs and big lows. And I'm always saying to my team and anybody who bothers to listen to me, my thing is our industry, I've been here for over 20 years. We are like a heart monitor. It's going to go up and down. You don't want to be in cardiac arrest. You don't want to be flatlining either. And actually, when we've come into January, it has been a lot more positive. There's been a lot more activity. Purchases, like Tony says, is definitely up. We are seeing a lot more purchases, not just first-time buyers, but also buy-to-let purchases. Mm-hmm. And that is really important because that's driving the market. Clients' confidence, though. So we need to be confident in the market as brokers, as lenders, but the consumer seems more confident. And that this is what we're going to be seeing for some time. Like you say, inflation is not playing as we wanted it to. Everyone's hoping it's going to nosedive this year, and that isn't going to be the case. It's going to be a stubborn market. But realising this is what we're going to be doing, and this is how it's going to be for some time. Once you accept that and realise it, the opportunities for every challenge that there is, there's an opportunity. And it's looking at them. So collaborating, looking at working with other lender partners and so on. There is this kind of like, you work with who you know, where actually speak to all the lenders you haven't spoken to. So for any new broker, if you haven't spoken to a certain lender that you can work with, pick up the phone to them. Yeah. Find out a way to say yes more often. And that's what it's about. Don't stick with your circle of people that you know, because they're still going to always be there. Look outside of it. Yeah. Push those boundaries. It does look really good. There's going to always be hits. It's the mortgage industry. Come on. It's going to take some hits. It always has done. However, consumers seem to be more confident in what they're doing. They've had to readjust not just to mortgage rate increases, but the whole cost of living. This has now become a norm versus a scare. And we've just got to keep on putting that message out there. Like you said, criteria has been changing. Affordability assessments have been changing. Looking at different ways of buying properties as a whole has changed. Let's just keep on talking about it, though. Let's keep on getting that information down to the consumer, the positive, because we can't get mad, and as much as I moan about it, the doom and gloom that's been put out there, unless we're putting the positive out there as well. That's what we've got to do, is we've got to change that perception.
It's a confidence market. If people are confident, it's great. If it's not, it does struggle. So I think you're spot on. We
need to counter some of this doom mongering that's in the press.
Absolutely.
Rachel had to go with that, guys. So it's just to give you a little plug here, Rachel. But Rachel went on. It was Martin's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us about it. You went on there and you gave some mortgage information out on TV, didn't you?
Yes, I was invited along to Martin Lewis when he was doing his mortgage roadshow on it, and it was good because it was speaking to the consumer. Because we have to remember in this industry, from lenders to brokers, there is a consumer who is sitting at home worried. Yeah. Whether it's how do they get on the ladder, how do they invest, what's happening with their remortgage, they are worried. And we're all human. We've all got mortgages. We've all got bills to pay. So actually being human with them is probably the biggest thing that came from that show, was actually understanding the concerns, but having the answers and having that conversation. So it's great to be on there to profile the broker industry, because we need to get more positive news out there. We need the professionals talking, not just presenters. It needs to be coming from the advisors, but actually remembering concern is the biggest hit of confidence. Just be open, have those real confident conversations about actually, yeah, we've gone through the same thing as humans. The consumer will get more confident. That's all they want. They want to know they're doing the right thing.
Tony, I cut you off. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I've forgotten what I've said. It's me. age.
That was H.
Yeah.
Close to 55.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Well,
gone. It's
would
gone.
you believe that's our time up?
Wow.
That has gone so quick today. Rachel, I can't thank you enough.
thank
we
you for
can't
having
thank
me.
you enough
Yes.
for coming and joining us, our
Amazing.
first
Thank you.
guest in the new series. So it's really nice to have you with us, and I hope you come back. We
Oh,
haven't scheduled
absolutely,
off.
if you have me.
Absolutely.
We will definitely have you back, don't you worry. And Phil, Tony, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Jay.
I think we've enjoyed this, haven't we?
Yeah, it's
we
good.
might keep
Yeah,
this
honestly,
going.
yeah,
So
it's
the
much
new,
better. Yeah,
new
yeah.
evolution of SFI Not
Yeah,
So
it
Live,
is,
as it
it
were.
is,
So
it's-
let's see how we look. We haven't seen ourselves
Yeah.
yet, guys. So let's see how it looks.
Yeah.
But thank you to you. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, pop over to Spotify or YouTube to watch the video version so you can come up to date everything that's on there. Just a caveat from us, everything we discussed today is our opinions and not necessarily that of our employers. So that's it for us for this month, and we'll be back again next month with another video version. If you're on Spotify or YouTube, please subscribe. You get notifications to come live to get the video versions. And if you want the audio versions, then go on to your favourite podcast provider and just click subscribe. That's it from us, and we'll see you next month.